Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the New Mutants number 96, cover dated December 1990, and this is part 5 of the 9-part Extinction Agenda crossover between Uncanny X-Men, New Mutants and X-Factor. Cover is by Rob Liefeld, inked by Thibert, and it is a very eye-catching cover, largely because of the huge blue beast there bounding almost out of the cover itself, and with the title logo kind of perched on his shoulders as well. And of course we've got Cable there shooting away, blasting away with his trademark big gun against some Genoshan magistrates. Yeah, so the blue of the beast's fur there really does pop, and I think that Liefeld does a good job on the anatomy of the beast and the pose. He does a good job in particular on the hand there and on that particular foot, and the foreshortening is pretty good on the figure. So let's open this one up to the first page. The first page is basically a catch-up on what has happened in previous chapters of the crossover, including the capture of Wolverine and Psylocke at the end of part 4, Uncanny X-Men 271. So we've got these Genoshan kids here, and they are talking about what is going on and the prospect of a big fight on the island. No way, says one of them, will protect our property and punish any terrorists and beat any invaders hands down. Because what has happened is, in the wake of the kidnapping of Storm, Rahne, Richter and Boom Boom, various members of the X-Men, X-Factor, all of X-Factor and some New Mutants, including Cable, have surreptitiously, covertly arrived on Genosha, but this has been discovered by camera and Hodge and satellite surveillance. And so there is an expectation of an attack by the allied X teams. So the magistrates are on the hunt for the escaped New Mutants, Boom Boom and Richter, and they're using a mutate tracker for that particular job. So actually I should note here that the first page here, if you look at the inks here, they're pretty scratchy looking inks. This is Rob Liefeld's last issue penciling the Extinction Agenda event. The next issue of New Mutants would have a fill-in artist, and clearly he was under a little bit of time pressure, deadline pressure on this issue. Some pages are better than others. This particular one, it seems doubtful that he had too much interest in drawing it very much. But also another factor in terms of the sketchiness of the art is the inker. So this is Joe Rubinstein inks, whereas on the upcoming 2 pages here, we've got Thibert inks, just as Thibert inked Liefeld's pencils on the cover. So the title of this story is United We Stand. Creative team here, Louise Simonson, writer Rob Liefeld, penciler Thibert and Joseph Rubinstein, inkers Task Force Z, lettering. That means that there's a whole bunch of different letterers involved in getting this issue to the printers on time. Steve Buccellato, colorist, and that rounds out the creative team. So yeah, you can really see the difference in the quality of art on this double page spread here. Clearly Liefeld took some time over these panels, and in particular the big anchor image of Jubilee running away from the couple of magistrates and the tracker mutate. But also it's pretty clear that Thibert's inking style, with his patience and interest in doing some cross-hatching and indeed fine line hatching, is a much better fit for Liefeld's pencils than Rubinstein, who on his pages the artwork just doesn't look as good. So again, there's just more catch-up here in all these speech balloons in the dialogue between Boom Boom and Richter. It seems that Jubilee is taking charge of the trio. She's the only one with mutant powers, because she hasn't had her powers wiped by Wipeout, and she's gone scrounging for food, but she's lost her bag of burgers there. She thinks, this stinks, all this trouble, and I dropped the burgers. Still, shouldn't be too hard to lose these dweebs. So Richter and Boom Boom leap down in order to help Jubilee, and Jubilee leaps over this wooden fence here. Just looks like I'm running down the street. Toss a few fireworks in their direction. Yeah, so pretty good drawings on these couple of panels here by Rob Liefeld. As I said earlier, it's clear that he's interested in what he's doing at this point in the issue. Again, another pretty cool anchor image and an interesting, what would I say, like oblique angle on Jubilee as she runs down that particular street and thinks to herself, and split down this alley while they're dazzled and half blinded from the explosion. Wieners, don't even know I'm gone. Piece of cake. So the tracker here is a new mutate and is frightened by Jubilee's fireworks. So the two magistrates talk about that, how all of the very best mutates have been seconded to the war effort. And then they decide, yeah, no more grandstanding, I'm calling in the pros. So so a call is put in there, and Jubilee's still running from them when she is grabbed and pulled behind this laneway by Richter and Boom Boom. And she's annoyed with them. She says, I bought us time to get away and you want to fight? Man, you don't even have any powers to fight. So let's see how the New Mutants trained by Cable get on in a fight against these adult magistrates. So again, another couple of pages here, spreads that you can see Liefeld was interested in drawing. That's a pretty nice image of Boom Boom kicking one of those magistrates in the head, and Richter also punching one of them out as well. He's got a 1-2 to the guy's jaw also, but he hurts his hand in the process, and Jubilee here kind of mocks him. Thought you didn't need powers. We don't, Jubilee, says Richter, as he stands over the unconscious bodies of the magistrates. As you can see, but they sure make taking out armored dudes a whole lot easier. I just wish this magistrate was the G-Engineer or that monster, Hodge. So now they go to take a look at the mutate, who is frightened of them. And Boom Boom here sees that the mutate is trembling, more scared of us than of the magistrates. He can't seem to understand he's being rescued. So Jubilee's heard all about Genosha and all about the mutates from Wolverine. So she explains, you guys haven't been around much, have you? Wolverine told me the mutates are all like that. The G-Engineer does something to their brains that makes them docile, so they can't think for themselves. They can only take orders, sort of flesh and blood machines. It's creepy, she says, the way they act like robots. So these couple of pages, as with the previous ones, inked by Thibert. But once I turn the page here, you can see a page inked by Joseph Rubinstein, and it just isn't of the same quality. It also reveals that Liefeld was probably handing in, due to the deadline crunch, pencils that were a little bit more like breakdowns and that needed embellishing by the inker. It needed those drawings finished by the inker, and Rubinstein clearly just not interested in adding anything to Liefeld's breakdown pencils. So not a good fit for Liefeld on this particular issue. So, and it would be soon after this that Liefeld would begin to pencil and ink his own art, I think starting with issue 98, after the guest fill-in issue in New Mutants 97. So Jubilee hears a blast in the, or hears a noise, and Richter sees in the sky swarming lights, those flying scooter things probably, and Boom Boom adds the magistrate's call for help must have gotten through. So they decide to run again, and they're just arguing with each other about what they should do next, and we'll pick up with them later. But in the meantime, the scene switches to Cable and X-Factor while in an abandoned warehouse near the Citadel. A coalition of mutants plans a rescue. So Cable says to Cyclops, it's a good scheme, Summers. Those with quiet powers set the charges and locate the prisoners. So that is in the Genoshan Citadel. While you Sound and Light Men will act as shock troops. So that's Cyclops' plan, and Cable agrees to it. And you can see here how sketchy is the art, particularly in this panel. Or look at Cable there, just really barely looks like a drawing by Liefeld. So again, it goes to what I was saying about Liefeld providing pencil breakdowns, and Rubinstein just not up to or interested in embellishing those breakdown pencils. So Cable then picks something up on the police bands. The Genoshians have captured someone else, Wolverine, along with at least one other person, because of course nobody knows that Psylocke has been through a body transformation process, and no one would recognize her to be Elizabeth Braddock. So that's an interesting little point there. And Beast picks up on Wolverine's codename. What the devil's he doing here? So Cable says, what we're doing. I expect Beast. I just hope we have more success than he did. So now we've got a little moment between Scott and Jean, where Scott once again is suspicious about who is behind everything. There's more to this, Jean, than is immediately obvious. Someone is behind it all, someone deadly, with a personal vendetta against us. I don't want to send you anywhere near the Citadel, and yet, and Jean fills in, it's where the prisoners are, and I'm the only telekinetic in this outfit, so I'm the designated driver. So they kiss, but it really looks like Cyclops is squashing up against her face there in the art. Difficult to draw characters kissing. This not the most successful kiss I've ever seen in comics. And then off they go. Jean telekinetically giving them a lift to the Citadel. So Iceman says, you and Jean are looking awfully happy in spite of all that's gone wrong recently. And Cyclops says, or maybe because of it. Our world has been turned upside down and everything we care about seems to be at risk. Maybe it's made us appreciate more what we have together. So the crisis bringing everyone together, tightening those emotional bonds. And now we're back to Art Thibert's inks. And again, you can see that there's not much detail on these pages, but Thibert making Liefeld's breakdown pencils look much better than Rubinstein's job. So a little moment here between Cannonball and Archangel. Cannonball, flabbergasted and bamboozled by Havok having apparently switched allegiance to Genosha, and also wondering here about what could be behind it all. Alex didn't seem to be a mutate, he says to Archangel, but he wasn't anywhere near like himself. He doesn't seem to even know who he really is. So Archangel says they've done this to him, the Genoshians, whoever's behind this mess. They're among the most dangerous foes X-Factor has faced, and the position of mutants in the world may well ride on the outcome of the upcoming battle. So the scene switches to Hodge, and really it's Hodge's vendetta against X-Factor, and in particular Archangel, that's driving everything that Cyclops suspects is going on behind the scenes in the Extinction Agenda crossover event. So here we see again evidence of maybe the rush job with Liefeld's art here, where we've got, it looks like a naked Havok walking up towards Cameron Hodge. See that there's two magistrates behind him, but where's this female figure who seems to be more or less at his shoulder? So really a sense here that an implication of a rush job with the art. Also look at Hodge's spectacles. He's only got one lens on the right side of his face, whereas in the next couple of pages he'll have both lenses on his face. In any case, Havok tells Hodge that we've lost them, sir. They've blocked our mutate tracker's ability to scan for them. So he's talking about X-Factor and the other New Mutants and X-Men on the island. We think it's probably the work of the inventor Forge. So Hodge doesn't care who's responsible. I want those mutants, and I want them now. He's a scenery-chewing ham villain in the whole course of this crossover series. Again, now we're back to the rougher, sketchier Joseph Rubinstein inks. So Hodge goes away, and Havok says to his female companion, and that is what's running our country. And she replies to him, he doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does he? Now Alex is thinking about his encounter with Cyclops. Why did my power affect him so little? Why did he call me brother? What am I doing to myself with all these questions? I've busted my butt getting to this position of authority, and I can't let a mutant trickster make me question everything I've worked for. So we don't have the full story of what happened with Havok coming out the other side of the Siege Perilous. We don't have all the steps, but we know that his soul was weighed in the cosmic balance of the Siege Perilous, and he was deposited on Genosha specifically to become a magistrate. And again, the open question is, what does that reveal about Havok and his demons, let's say, or his dark side? And then we switch to the G-Engineers, the Chief G-Engineers lab, and we've got Rahne here, who is manacled to some kind of table, and she's thinking to herself about everything she's going to lose. She's never going to know happiness, nor her husband's devotion, nor children of my own, never to live a normal life, to have nothing, to be nothing, to hardly have a life at all. Because what's coming up for her is she's going to be turned into one of those mutates. And here's Cameron Hodge to gloat over the process. And he tells Dr. David Moreau, I want her to know, in some dark corner of her mind, I want her to remember and to understand what I've done to her, and yet be helpless to oppose my will. Because usually mutates have their minds completely wiped. So Moreau here, who doesn't like Hodge at all, says, that will be dangerous, Hodge. She'll be a walking powder keg. Your insane desire for revenge against these mutants will blow up in all our faces. But Hodge doesn't want to listen. And now Rahne herself exclaims that you will not get away with it. X-Factor and Cable will rescue me, you'll see. So Hodge taunts her and tells her, that's it, wolf girl, scream, fight it. I want it to hurt. I want you to remember in some part of the wasteland that will be your mind that it was I, Cameron Hodge, your master, who caused you such horror and such pain. So he's a real sadist, is Cameron Hodge. And now we're back to our Thibert finishes over Liefeld's pencils. That's a pretty nice image of the trio of Richter, Boom Boom and Jubilee in conference, asking what they're going to do with themselves next. And they decide that the priority now is to get some food. So they use the mutate tracker to find an apartment with nobody in it, and they check out the fridge and it's full. So it looks like they've scored nicely and they're going to be able to get some food into them. But the TV, Jubilee turns the TV on, and just before they can register what might be on the TV, a magistrate enters the apartment. And the irony is, it's the magistrate's own apartment. It's my flat, he says. It figures, replies Richter. Of all the vacant apartments in the city, we pick one that belongs to a cop working the night shift. Again, we're back here to Rubinstein's inks over Liefeld's breakdowns. This would have been a nice anchor image if it had been inked by Thibert, is my feeling. Let's continue with the story. Then, Jubilee having switched on the TV, they get a news report of Rahne, who apparently has been turned into a mutate, the process having been successful. And she makes an announcement. She says, I willingly offered to serve Genosha in expiation for the terrorist crimes of the X-Men. I ask those who remain at large to turn yourselves in. The Genoshans who are rightfully angry can also be merciful. So of course this kind of public announcement really mirrors the kinds of things that happen to prisoners who undergo torture and brainwashing and all kinds of inhumane processes in totalitarian type regimes, and are made to make these kinds of public pronouncements that are basically the end result of, as I said, having been tortured or brainwashed. Richter reacts with violence. She's alive, isn't she? Richter reacts with shock, merciful, compared to what? And the magistrate says, she's alive, isn't she? Gene joke. Even if the G-Engineer did turn her into mutate, a unit of biotechnology configured to serve the state in mind and body. Shut up, says Richter. Shouts, we'll rescue her. So Richter's about to run off on a madcap rescue mission, and he is stopped by both Jubilee and Boom Boom, who, at least in this regard, agree. Are you going to calm down and listen to reason, or do I have to slug you? She says to Richter. And he says, let me go. I know it's stupid to try to get back into the Citadel, but that's where they keep her. This would never have happened if I'd made her come with me. It's my fault She's like that. I have to save her. Besides, I love her. So Jubilee says, look, if you want to go that bad, I'll go with you. And he's surprised. Sure. What do you think? You New Mutants got the patent on stupidity? Look, no way I'll let something like that happen to Wolvie either. And that sounds just like what they've got planned. So they decide that they are going to go back to the Citadel, and the mutate steps up and says that he is going to help them. The way you rush to save your friends, says the mutate. It brings images, reminds me, how can it? So the brainwashing technique was not 100%. My mother doing that for me, she tried to stop them too and failed. So he's going to help them as much as his programming will allow. And then the scene switches to Cyclops' plan, and we've got Jean using her telekinesis to levitate up to the Citadel, Cable, Gambit, and Sunspot, and they're working to defuse bombs in the Citadel. So they're working to kind of open it up for other members of the team. Oh no, they're setting bombs. And then Gambit says to Sunspot, as he sees a magistrate coming out onto the balcony, "Get out of the way, kid." Guard coming out onto the balcony. Let's continue here. This would have been a nice anchor image if it had been inked by Thibert. In midair, the bomb casing that Gambit hurls transforms to release its stored up energy with a flash of silent impact, and it knocks the magistrate off the balcony and he falls to his death from the top of the Citadel. But meanwhile in the sewers, we've got our trio of Jubilee, Boom Boom and Richter, and they're coming to the Citadel via the sewer tunnels. They also have the mutate there who's helped them along the way. And just as they arrive up onto street level, that magistrate hits the ground with a splat. So Boom Boom thinks it's gross. Even a magistrate shouldn't end up like that. Where'd he come from? And so they hear Cable's voice somehow from all the way up the top of the Citadel. If the sound of his landing didn't alert folks, his scream will. I'd say that's our signal to Vamoose. That voice, it's Cable. Now, Vamoose doesn't sound like a phrase that Cable would use, but anyway, whatever. And the mutate runs, and Jubilee and the others follow the mutate, but Boom Boom tells her to keep back, guards. Keep back, why? I've got power, she says. And they have a guy who can steal powers just the way he stole ours. So that's a reference to Wipeout, of course. And Jubilee wants to join the fight with Cable and the others. And she says to them, "Let me go, darn you. You griped about Storm keeping Cable from helping you when you were in trouble, but you're as bad as Storm." So that's a reference to part 1 of the crossover, Uncanny X-Men 270. And here we get to see, again, an interesting, I wonder, is it a disjunction between Louise Simonson's script and Liefeld's art, where Liefeld is drawing the fight between Cable, Jean Grey, Forge, Sunspot and the magistrates, while it is Jubilee who's talking over the fight scene. Magistrates on scooters who have our guys outnumbered a zillion to 1 are forcing Cable and the X-guys down into the courtyard. And if you think I'm hiding here when I could be helping, you lame-eyed dweebs are even dumber than you look. And so on and so forth. And Boom Boom argues with her, there's no point in throwing away lives when you don't have a prayer of success. So Jubilee argues back, and Boom Boom says, "You don't know anything, Jubilee. Even if we could beat them, and that's unlikely, there's no way we can take out the real enemy, that monster, Cameron Hodge, just as he appears." So my question is Simonson writing the dialogue here for what she asked for in the script, but Liefeld gave her something different? And this really goes to the heart of the dysfunctional collaboration between Louise Simonson and Rob Liefeld. Liefeld would take her scripts and replot them with his art, and then she would have to come up with dialogue and narrative captions to make sense of the pages that were given back to her. And so ultimately, this is their very last collaboration. And Liefeld in the present will never use Louise Simonson's name. He will not actually name her. So the breakdown of their creative relationship was not at all in any way cordial. And in fact, Liefeld would, let me think about how I'll phrase this, excuse me, go to Bob Harras and basically say it's her or me. And Harras chose to keep Liefeld on as chief creative on the book, make him the plotter of the book as well as the artist, and Simonson was dumped from the book. So in effect, she lost her job. At the same time, losing X Factor as well, because Whilce Portacio had become the chief plotter on that book. So Louise Simonson, loses her job on New Mutants, loses her job on X Factor, and basically walks across the street to DC Comics with John Bogdanove and gets a job on a Superman title, Man of Steel. And as I said, to this day, there is not a good relationship between Simonson and Liefeld. But back to the story, Hodge arrives and Wipeout, on his instructions, uses his power against the mutants, so they're depowered. And Richter says to Jubilee, you see, Jubilee, 1 minute you're superpowered, the next you're zip. That would have happened to you too. So Cameron Hodge hears Richter's voice. What is that whisper of voices like an errant breeze? Who's making all that racket? And this is an interesting moment. The runaway mutate takes the blame, says, it was me. I talk to self only, boss. Congratulate self, see enemy attack. And I give great shout and raise alarm that leads you here. I save all of Citadel. So boom, boom. Surprised. The mutate knew we were here. He looked right at us and lied through his teeth. And they'll believe him because everybody knows mutates can't lie, says Jubilee. Even faced with that monstrosity Hodge, he didn't betray us. Man, if that thing is what Wolverine and Psylocke went up against, no wonder they were captured. So, they see now, by the way, this previous page, a couple of pages inked by Art Thibert, look pretty good. And then we're back to that scratchy Joe Rubinstein inks on this page. So Richter whispers another mutate's coming forward. And he's in shock. It's Rahne. And this last page inked by Thibert. And Rahne says to Cable, Forge, and the others that have been captured, you will soon be tried and condemned and will serve Genosha loyally as mutates in expiation for your crimes, as I myself now serve. And Richter is resolved. Facing these guys up front won't work, but sneaky might. So we'll have to be as sneaky as they come. First, we're going to find Wipeout and make him give back our powers. And then either Genosha surrenders Rahne and all the others, or I'll shake this island so hard that not a single building will remain. And again, just the final point about the dysfunctional relationship, creative relationship between Simonson and Liefeld. What's this little panel here with Cable meant for? Obviously in Liefeld's mind, Cable maybe would get a piece of dialogue there, but he doesn't, but Simonson doesn't give him anything to say. So there you go, that's the last of the collaboration between Simonson and Liefeld. Next, read X Factor 61 to witness a tender moment with ramifications between Jean and Wolverine as the X teams wage all-out war on the Citadel. Then, in X-Men 272, witness X-Men on trial. And then join us here in 30 for the penultimate chapter of the Extinction Agenda. So there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on New Mutants number 96. Let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment section of the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video in YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.